Welcome back to the I Tried to Be Straight podcast.
Welcome back.
You are probably here for one of two reasons. The first one being that you are on this journey with us. And the most popular reason is that you think Nate is super cute. And that is also why I'm back here.
Okay. Coming from the person that looks like that with that hair. But I mean, they're here for you. They're here for you, Susie.
What can I say?
I'm starting this podcast to launch Susie. And she is now in charge. She is beauty. She is grace.
Not true.
She is lovely. I think she underplays how pretty she is.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Keep
but
going.
You can't keep hyping me up. I've talked about this so many times, but you can't. I need negative from you. I've had enough hyping up. Now you got to give me.
It's not in my DNA, Nate.
We're gonna find it somewhere in there. There is a Susie that just slings the best insults, and we're gonna find her. I do want to say though, this is real. I looked at the last podcast, and it's really hard to watch yourself for that long. If you've never recorded video of yourself and watched it back, you should do it because it's eye-opening. I realize I gesticulate so much. That's this when you talk with your hands. I might try and do it less, but I probably will fail. My posture also needs a lot of help. So we're going to be working on that along with the workouts, more yoga. And also, I think I talk too much.
Would you like me to shush you?
Yeah.
Okay. Shh.
Wait, while I'm talking. So no, I need like a hard shush. Okay. So I'm going to be talking and you're just going to shush me right in the middle. And while I'm talking, you're just going to shush me and you're just going to.
I'll ask you another question. Why do you feel like you have to fill in the space with talking?
Oh my God. A therapist asked me that once. And it was legit.
What did you say?
And I was legit. Well, because I was doing that to my therapist and he was like talking and I'd be like finishing a sentence. I'm afraid of silence.
Why are you afraid of silence?
Because I'm a people pleaser.
Wait, what? Walk that back for me.
I want to help people by finishing their sentences, and it's actually like a bad thing. And I'm really trying to stop. And I need the feedback. I know I'm probably going to get this feedback on the podcast already. But you need to tell me I can become better. That's the goal. Make me better, Susie.
Okay, here's a tip for you.
Yeah.
Ask more questions.
Okay.
Right.
This is real.
Okay, go.
I'm really listening to you.
Ask me a question.
Why do you think I need to ask more questions?
I don't know, just to listen more, talk less.
What do you love?
Was that the time?
What are your dreams?
Well, what are my dreams and aspirations?
Yeah.
Oh man, I have a lot of dreams and aspirations.
Okay, so we're talking about. No, you can actually say one if you want, but that was a joke question.
Okay, well,
because that's a whole podcast about your dreams. You know
what's funny is one of my dreams and aspirations is connecting all my friends. I literally just love connecting them. And
that's me too.
Funny enough, we have one of my greatest friends here today.
Okay, this is what the podcast is about. It's not about me and Susie. Nope. We're both giving up the mic today. Who's your greatest friend? Let's hear about her.
Morgan.
Morgan enters the chat. But you got to switch positions. You can't be in the middle.
Oh yeah, here.
Because then we're just gonna both be like looking back and forth. I need to be nicer. I'm telling everybody what to do all the time. You need to stop me.
No, it's okay. You can boss me around.
I'm a menace. Thank you. Yes. Oh, that's your mic. If you want it, you don't have to. And it's fine if you don't. You don't have to take the mic. It's literally, it's chill. I'm super chill.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for our listeners, I'm going to fill them in on a little bit of Morgan.
Yes.
So Morgan is one of the sweetest people I've ever met. She is not afraid of hard work. This girl knows how to do therapy. Like she knows how to go after it hard. She's awkwardly smiling at me now. Morgan is also one of the only people on planet Earth that I'm scared of. Because
it's hilarious because no one else in this world is afraid of me except for Susie.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of you, but I'd love to find out
why.
How to be.
Okay, well, play a game with her and you will see
what kind of games?
Any game,
like
any
a sport
competitive
or like a board game?
Anything competitive.
Do you F with Catan?
Settlers of Catan?
Yes.
I mean, I played it like a couple times when I was younger,
but
I'm sure I can intimidate you.
I'll ruin you.
Let's go.
I'm really good.
You see it in her eyes now. It kind of glazes over and she will beat you. She will beat you.
Or if I don't, I'll make you regret that you won.
Can attest.
No, that's my thing. I'm the baby, so I always just like, if someone wins, I'm just like, well, I'm small anyways. Like, that was easy. You feel good about beating me? Really?
Morgan also has an incredible story that she's going to share with us today. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. thank you for being here. Really
Thank
happy.
you for having me.
You're our first guest.
Oh my gosh, I'm so flattered.
This is a really big moment because now it's not about us. And I'm actually going to like make that real and not over talk everybody this time. Last time I said it's not about me, and then
You're making it about you right now? You're going to... Just stop.
I love this. I love this from you. And today it's all about Morgan. It's all about you.
Great.
It's all about you and everything you have to say and your dreams and aspirations. Okay, I'm going to stop talking.
All right, Morgan, take it away.
Yeah. Well, so I know I tried to be straight, and I tried to be straight for maybe 2.2 seconds. What wasn't very long.
So extend those 2.2 seconds into a 1 hour podcast. Go.
Yeah, I'll try. So, I mean, from a very young age, I knew that I was different. A lot of the younger girls around me talked about their weddings and wanted to talk about guys and character traits, ways that men looked, and that just wasn't a common thing that I wanted to engage in. I would pretend. I had like my handy dandy celebrity that I'd always say when people asked me like, so who's your celebrity crush? I think every gay goes through this.
What was it?
Yeah.
Mine was Zac Efron.
Me too.
Okay, but like that was mine, but the secret one. That was the opposite.
Wait, who was your girl one?
Keira Knightley.
Okay.
She's so fierce.
Yeah.
She just has that like.
Yeah.
If I could, I was like, maybe she'd be interesting enough.
I can get down to the charisma of Zac Efron, like High School Musical,
That sick golf.
Yeah, I
course
guess.
Scene.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I tried to engage, and I didn't really think much of it. And I mean, at that age, some kids do talk about it and some kids don't. But that was probably like my first sign and indicator was that, okay, something's just like a little bit different. And then getting into like my teenage years, that ramped up. Girls were talking about guys all the time. And a lot of times I would get frustrated. And I was just like kind of coined as like the book nerd, to herself, a little bit introverted, which I am more introverted. But I just didn't put myself out there, and mostly because I was just trying to figure things out within myself. And something that I really struggled with was that I'm pretty femme. For the people that can't see me.
She's a cutie little femme.
Yeah, I'm very straight passing. Walking down the street, no one would really know. And at that time, my exposure to the LGBTQ community was that you looked a very specific way in order to be a part of it. And I was like, well, I don't look like them, so I must not be a part of it, even though like I would watch lesbian YouTubers all the time and be like, wow, they're so pretty. And I think that I would get it convoluted with wanting to be them. That was not the case. I now know. Yeah. And so that was hard, being so straight passing. And then I remember I started going to therapy in college. And I started opening up some really hard conversations with my therapist. And she had presented the idea. She was like, she had asked me, like, are you into men? And I was like, like very wishy-washy, didn't have like a straightforward answer. And then she's like, well, are you into women? And I was like, maybe. I don't know.
You don't ask that question.
Yeah, I was like, I'll get back to you. And I remember then I was forced to kind of deal with that reality and that question. And I came back to her and I was like, yeah, I'm into women. I like women. Yeah.
How did that realization sit with you?
It made me sick, because I grew up in a very Christian bubble. Similar to both of you guys, not to speak for you, but I knew that meant what that was opening was a cavern of lots of different things, and that I would have to start deconstructing my faith. I didn't know that that's what it was at the time, but it was like this void that I was stepping into. And so it made me sick because all the questions came up, right? Yeah. It's like, what do I believe? Why do I believe it? How important is this? Is this something that I should deny myself of? How should I go about this? And I lived in that space for about 2 years, going to therapy consistently, talking with my therapist, and I talked with friends, and the friends that I was talking with at the time were very Christian as well. I didn't really have people to look up to that had faith and were also gay. And so when I look back and I think about little Morgan in that moment, I just wish that I could have been there for her, because I think of how hard that was and how lonely that was to navigate that. And I had a lot of people giving input into my life that didn't understand the breadth of the struggle that I was dealing with at the time.
What did those conversations look like with the people that were into your life?
In their defense, how I would preface it is as a struggle. I was struggling with my sexuality, not like this is my sexuality. And so they would be like, of course, being the good friends that they are, would be like, well, I just want to help you and give you the answers, right? It was solution oriented. And so they're like, well, then you just need to do this, this, and that. Or then we need to go to church and talk to the pastor about this. Or, and so I did a lot of those things. I prayed, and I wished that this wasn't the case. Talked to my therapist. I don't know if this is too deep, I dug into my past and was trying to identify if there was some sort of moment that like made it happen for me.
Like what turned you gay?
Yeah, like what made me gay.
Yeah, because that's what the Christians will tell you happened. And
yes, and I was like, I had myself convinced at a certain point that I had blocked something out in my memory that made me this way. And I really struggled with that, because that's a whole season of my life that was really, really difficult and really dark in its own ways. And so that was those 2, maybe 3 years, maybe 2-ish years. And then I had put it out into the universe, and it was a reality, and I was actually dealing with it in my reality. So guess what happened?
What happened?
You met a girl.
I met a girl.
Shoot.
Yeah. At school.
Oh, dang. Wait, so was this college at this point?
Yes, this was at college. I was 18 at the time.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
So you were like, you're living with your family still, or are you
I was still living with my family.
Okay.
I was still living with my family. Recalling it back now, it's so crazy how it all happened. I was 18, I was in choir, and there was just something, an energy about her that was different. Now knowing that's called gaydar.
Yours was working. It was working.
And it was in tune, because I had actually brought it to the surface. It wasn't like tucked away in the corners of my mind. I started developing a friendship with her, and she wasn't the best person for me at that time. Neither of us were in healthy spaces to be able to be good people for each other. But she was my sexual awakening. She was the one that made it happen for me. Yep. And I was like, oh, this is what all the girls were talking about.
Oh my gosh,
back in middle school and high school. I was like, I just dreamed about these things in the back of my mind, but like they were like the skeletons in the closet that we don't talk about, this wasn't the thing that like everybody else was talking about. That had its own euphoria and its own heartbreak, because let's be real, lesbian heartbreak is like awful.
I think it's worse than gay heartbreak. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what your guys' experience is like, but we seem pretty dramatic on my end.
Oh, it's like you're dying.
I feel like in general, and this is a stereotype, so I don't want to just say this, but I feel like girls tend to go deeper emotionally quicker.
Yes.
I would say in general.
Yes. Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did. And there's not a whole lot that we did physically, but we went there emotionally.
Yes.
And I'll just speak for myself. I went there emotionally, and because it was my first time, and I had no one to like guide me or be an example, I just went whoom down.
We're in love.
Yeah.
Boundaries who?
Exactly. No boundaries. People pleaser on the loose, running wild. Yep. It was a really severe heartbreak, and I just have such a specific picture of that like time in my life. I was sitting on the curb waiting for my therapist. It was like an impromptu meeting, because I just she had just like broke it off with me.
And therapist broke it off with you?
No.
The girl did.
The girl did.
That's happened to me before. We're not gonna talk about it.
They're like, Nate, stop finishing.
Wait, are you sure? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. I haven't been talking enough, so it's hard.
And you're drinking my coffee.
Our coffee. We share everything now.
Anyways, she broke it off with you.
I read this. Okay, get back on track. I'm so sorry.
No, this is great. Yeah, so the girl that I had been talking with broke it off with me, and I had called my therapist and I was like, I'm a mess. And at this point, I hadn't talked with my parents yet. I hadn't really told anybody except for a couple friends in my life. And I was just like a mess. And something that I've been working through and I've gotten much better at, but I was not good at this time, was when I am in a hard place, I become a hermit. Fully isolate, fully withdraw. And so I reached out to my therapist, and this is like I need someone, like a shot in the dark. And she sat with me, and I just like fell apart. And a lot of it was the girl, but the other part was like, so now what do I do? Yeah. Like I'm in such pain, and no one knows except for like a handful of people. And my therapist was like, you should talk to people about it. So thankful for her, because that was the right move. As hard as I knew those conversations were going to be, I knew that I couldn't do what I had just done alone or do it again alone. So I told my mom, and I remember, again, I feel like we probably all have a similar story. It was Thanksgiving dinner. Of course, this is when
you did it at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, guys, I'm so sorry. I had no one to guide me. Okay, I did all the things wrong. Okay.
No, I love it. And they have to be, you pretend to be happy after that, which is honestly that's a win.
Yeah, you timed it up perfect.
I like it, and it's drama, and that's that's so gay of you.
Yeah, seriously.
Honestly, that's a Nate move, and I stay Nate.
Oh man, yeah, I would advise not to do that for anybody that's a lesbian and in the closet and thinking about bringing it up to their parents or family members.
Not Thanksgiving.
Don't do it on Thanksgiving. Maybe any other time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was, I just remember us being at the Thanksgiving table, and my mom had brought up something along the lines of like a political thing that had been going on in the world at the time. No. And I just was like, why do you think that? What about this person in my life that's gay? Like, are we going to exclude them? And my mom just looked at me and was like, why are you so passionate about this?
Oh no.
And I was like, well, maybe because we are interacting with gay people all the time, and why would we choose to be hateful? Like, why would we choose to be hateful when we could be loving? And she's like, that's not hateful. And I was like, yes, it is.
Dang.
And she was like, something else is going on. I was like, yeah, because I'm gay. And like, obviously, pencil drop moment. Like the whole entire table was like,
oh my God.
Which, okay, for like context.
I love this. Get it.
It was at the table was just me, my younger sister, my mom, and my dad. So it wasn't like
still, that's
the
enough.
Extended relatives.
Family,
yeah.
But still, that's enough.
Yeah. Maybe for the story, it's just extended relatives. The entire family.
The whole family.
Yeah.
Grandma, grandpa. Peepaw.
4 levels of ancestry is out of this table.
Just for the wildness of the story. Yeah, it was
it's still wild.
Family.
It's still wild.
Yeah. And I remember my mom, it went silent, and honestly kind of blacked out. I don't really remember what happened after that at that point. But I remember my mom asked my dad and my sister to wash the dishes, and we went upstairs, my mom and I just basically cried because at that point I was going through the heartbreak still, and it was still very real. And I shared with her my experiences, and she did say at one point, she's like, oh, that's why you were never really into boys. And I was like, yeah.
She didn't even think about it till then?
No, not really. Wow. I mean, and I think a lot of it is because of my preferences, and like how I interact with the world is very feminine. And so because of the stereotypes and because of the way that the LGBTQ community was perceived, it was very easy for her to be like, that's not even an option. And because I was in the Christian faith too. Right. So like that wasn't even something that she really entertained, if she did, for very long. So it didn't really cross her mind. She's like, okay. And something that, and I'm so glad that I had my therapist at this time, who, by the way, was also gay and Christian.
No way.
Yeah. And I didn't know that coming to her.
Shoot.
Yeah. it was honestly such a blessing to end up being with her, because I made it my mission to live in tension between faith and sexuality, because what I had seen was that it's polarizing and it's divisive. And what it comes down to for me is what's most important is loving God and loving people.
Yep.
And I know that I haven't loved God in the ways that I should, in the best ways in the past, and I probably won't in the future, but I'm going to make every attempt to do that, and also then love the people around me with every part of me. In whatever season of life that might be. And so I knew for my mom, I was like, this is going to be hard for her because she's pictured my life one way. As much as she has tried to give me the grace to live however I want, this is not something that she factored into her idea of me. And that's okay. And I wanted to make space for that, as much as give myself space for my voice. And that was through a lot of therapy that I came to that conclusion.
That is such a mature response to say, like, hey, you're going to have your feelings about this because you've idealized what my life is going to look like as your daughter. And I'm going to give you grace and extend that grace to you to have space to feel whatever you may about it, which is so on brand for you.
At such a young age to get there, like, I feel like it took me a lot longer to get to that kind of thinking of, you don't have to have a black or white, like, there's tension, we're in the middle of two different situations, and you have grace for all of that. That's really impressive.
Thank you. I mean, I had seen it be divisive. And I think the political climate that I grew up in the church, they were talking about it in a negative way. And in my family, I had had experiences with family members that were not positive. And not to rat my parents out, they didn't know better at the time, but they didn't handle it well. And how they spoke about people, and how how you spoke about the people, that was the reflection to me that I had received. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not who I want to be. And if that was me that they were talking about, because it could have been, I was like, wow, I don't want to do that. And so it was something that was really important to me when beginning to share with my mom, my dad, extended family, that I lived in that tension, like you and I talked about, Nate. I think that that's a really great way to put it. And I don't always do it very well, and sometimes I get really angry on one side or the other. But I made that my mission, and my mom and I cried, and we had a really hard conversation. It was really hard for my mom at first. But what I'm so thankful for is that she did come around.
Wow.
And my mom and I have struggled in our relationship, but this is something that I know she's made a really big priority. And I'm very thankful for that. So fast forward past that moment, I had started making a couple friends at the school that I was going to that were gay.
Oh boy.
And they were just friends. They were just friends.
Made a lot of friends.
And they were roommates.
I made so many friends.
And they were roommates.
We've all made a lot of friends. Now that we've come out now.
And one of the things that came up in conversations were dating apps.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Which one?
Her.
Oh.
Just for women. I don't know if it's still a thing.
It is.
It is. Are you on it?
No, I'm not, but I know.
Guys, Susie is on her.
Are you her?
No, I'm not.
We're going to get Susie on her.
I'm too scared.
This is an ad for her. They haven't been doing so well in the ratings. We're going to bring them back.
And I'm going to tell you my love story. Yeah.
You could find one too on hers. Even the guys are using it.
Hymns.
That's a different thing.
Yeah, that's a different brand. Anyways, you're on her.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I was on her, or I joined her, and truthfully, and I do mean this with all sincerity, I joined it to make friends.
Okay.
I've seen those Tinder profiles. We're here for friends.
Yes. No, seriously. And I put in my bio, learning to bridge the gap between faith and sexuality.
Wow.
Because it was really important to me that people understood where I was coming from, because it took up so much of my head and heart and mind and everything.
Yeah.
And I talked with a handful of people, and then this girl slid into my DMs. And she was like, your eyes are so pretty. And I was like, your eyes are so pretty. And fast forward 6 years later, and I'm engaged to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's incredible.
And she's incredible.
She's the
Yes. Yes. She's amazing. Her and I started talking on this app and switched over to Instagram, and thus our love story started budding. At this point, I had not told some of my extended family. The moment that I met her and started to get to know her, I was like, oh shit, this is real, and I need to come out, fully out.
Dang.
Yeah, because I was like, it's important to me that she gets to be a part of my family, at least the family that's willing to accept me.
Yeah.
And I want to do this right. I told my dad, and I had told my mom not to tell my dad. I'm pretty sure that my mom told my dad because he handled it so well.
She told your
Parents are always in cahoots.
They can't not. They can't.
He handled it so well and was so incredible. But I had some other family members that did not handle it well. And I want to give them benefits of the doubt and be as gracious as I possibly can.
Yeah. I
had one family member in particular that I was very close to that it was really hurtful how they chose to handle it. And it was like 3 months into Lauren is her name, Lauren and I's relationship, and it spun me into such an anxiety that I couldn't eat, and I was getting sick, and I was bedridden, and I couldn't function. And for a couple months, my mom had to take care of me because I couldn't move. My body was too weak because I hadn't eaten. Through that time, though, I got to see people around me rise up and show their true colors. The friends that really wanted to be a part of my life got to be a part of my life. And walk me through those moments. And it was very few people. I was actually really shocked. But those people are solid people and are still people in my life. After getting on some natural supplements, I was able to finally gain enough strength back to start moving and start getting a hold of my mind. Because what had happened is I just had gone down the drain. Yeah, and I couldn't get a hold of my mind because my body couldn't get a hold of itself. I got on those supplements and I was able to pull myself up. And Lauren and I at that time, we struggled because she was like, you haven't, do you need to sort this out? Do you need to go do this on your own? And I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know. I want this. I want us, but I also don't know when this is going to end. And we tried going to Christian churches that were affirming, and we tried doing all of it, but I just I couldn't settle myself. Went back to therapy. Thank God for therapy.
Same therapist this whole time?
Yes, actually, yes. This was the same therapist. And that was really helpful to gain some more clarity back. And
what was the clarity that you got during that time?
I think I had... So I'm a people pleaser too. I know that you'd mentioned that earlier. Yeah. And I think, truthfully, if you grow up in the church, it's really hard to not be a people pleaser.
Exactly. Really.
And so I grew up that way. And I was constantly looking up to people, wanting to model my life in their ways and be the best version of myself. And so I was highly influenced by some of the people that chose to not agree with how I was going to do my life. And it sent me into a tizzy, to say the least. And so, but what I had to realize is that my voice matters. And how I choose to live my life is my choice. Just because someone doesn't agree with me doesn't mean that I'm wrong. And
it's huge.
Yeah, but a painful realization, and one that I still will grapple with in different seasons of life, depending on the certain kind of rejection that I get because of some specific traumatic events.
Next episode.
Yeah, right.
We dig into the specific traumatic events.
But we're healing, and what I can say is that because of those times and that rejection, I know that I have a certain kind of grace and love for people that maybe some people wouldn't have without that experience. And so in the same breath, I'm also really thankful for what happened. So 3 months, that happened 3 months into Lauren and I's relationship.
Dang.
And it was hard and we struggled. But we chose each other and we made it through, obviously. And yeah, at that point, like it was me just trying to get my mind well, get my anxiety under control. Yeah. Lauren and her and I against the world.
Wedding bells.
Yeah, wedding bells. Actually, that didn't really happen though until, or at least her proposing to me until 4 years in. And we proposed, or she proposed. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's been 2 years.
Okay,
Yep.
you mentioned, I'm curious about this part of your story, that you guys had tried some affirming churches. And I'm curious about, because you were involved and engaged in the church previously before that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what was that like?
I forgot about this part of my story. So I had been involved in a couple churches beforehand, and not in a faith way. Like I wasn't teaching any biblical teachings. I was teaching acting and theater because that's what my major is in. And when they had found out that I was dating a woman, they had asked me very kindly, but they asked me to leave and to step down.
Dang.
So my experience with churches has been not very positive, and I've had a couple pastors have a really strong opinion about my choices in my life. And so it put a bad taste for church in my mouth.
Yep.
And in that anxiety period, I was just doing anything to seek comfort because that's where I had grown up in my whole life.
It used to be a place that gave you comfort.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming something that's causing you pain.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And so I was like trying to find that same comfort, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't see it. I couldn't feel it. And I honestly, my heart has shut from that experience. And I've wanted to open it up again. But I haven't trusted it, if I'm being transparent, because of some of my experiences. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah. If there's some affirming churches out there that are really awesome and cool and hip, let me know.
No, actually there's one, and I might have the pastor, this like amazing lesbian pastor, like friend of mine, like a church like 30 minutes from here. I've been going, so she might become the podcast, but no, I
would love that.
I totally, it's hard because the church became a place where I felt safe, but I felt like I was people pleasing all the time. And now you just go there and you're kind of waiting to be triggered.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how it felt? Like you're just kind of waiting for them to say something where you don't feel safe anymore?
Yeah. Yeah. And like if I were to hold Lauren's hand, like if Lauren and I went to church together and we held hands, I don't want to be a spectacle. I don't want to be looked at as like an exhibit or like a thing to change. I just want to be able to go and have community and to talk about things that I'm passionate about, and the world and human experiences and love and kindness and community. Those are the things I want to talk about with people. And so what I ended up doing is I found church in places that aren't technically church. In the shows that I was doing, I found church. In the conversations, the one-on-one conversations that I would have, I would find church, because the things that I wanted to talk about were deep and profound and meant something for me and meant something for the other person that I was talking to. And we shared that experience. So that's church.
Yep. Yep.
And so that's where I started to find fulfillment, and that's where my, like, I guess, faith started to turn towards, rather than the stereotypical
structure.
Structure of church, the Sunday church.
I'm curious, that day when you like had to sit down and have this conversation to step down. I mean, at this point you had like been investing time, your talents, like you were with students, like helping them through, like they had kind of attached to you at this point, like, and I'm curious, you're sitting with the leader at this point and they ask you to step down, and what's going through your head like once you leave that meeting?
Well, I truthfully can't really fully remember. There's a lot of it is white in my mind.
Yeah.
I can tell you what my body was experiencing.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, I was sick. That's my response normally.
Yeah.
Sick, shaking.
You just can't process, and your body just is like, no, we can't.
But what I was still very firm on is how I wanted to treat them and the kind of impression that I wanted them to have of me. I didn't want to be and there's nothing wrong with this, but I didn't want to be, it didn't set well with me to be the gay that picketed.
Yeah.
I wanted to show grace and love and extend kindness in ways that I hadn't been extended, because that was really, really important to me.
Dang.
And
huge.
they prayed with me, and I accepted that, and they cried. And I know it was hard for them because they had been receiving information and they were passing it on to me. It wasn't directly from them. It was painful and it was hard. And I knew coming into it that it was happening because I wasn't allowed to have a one-on-one with another woman. They had asked someone else.
Shut the front door.
They had asked another woman to come in.
Meanwhile, like the
fight.
guy pastors in these kind of situations are like meeting with girls one-on-one. That's fine, but not you.
Yeah. And so I knew coming into it, I was like, okay, I know what this is about. And part of me was like frustrated. I was like, why didn't I beat them to the punch?
I should have quit first.
Like the little like vengeful part of me. Yeah. So I knew what was happening when I came into it. Yeah. And I walked away and I was like, okay, like my place is not at the church.
Yeah.
It's not where I'm accepted. It's not where I am, or where they're going to bring out the best in me. I'm not going to feel empowered as a woman who loves another woman, but also just even as an individual.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just going to be staggering for me.
Oof.
Okay, I have another question.
Yeah,
I'm so curious.
Susie, you're so good with questions.
She's really good with the questions. I'm like, I don't got any good ones now.
I'm curious to know what it was that you needed to hear at that time to know that, hey, your place is in the church. Your giftings are useful in the church. God made you beautifully and wonderfully made. I mean, right? Like, what did you need to hear at that time?
Like, if I was looking at little me, I would say that I love you. You're so talented. You're doing the best that you can. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so excited to see how you grow.
Wow.
Dang, mic drop.
Because I do feel like, regardless of your stance on this, because I feel like some people from different stances will be watching this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, what you experienced in those moments from anyone watching that would be like, that is the last thing that would help you. You didn't feel love. You didn't feel taken care of. You felt other people being afraid, other people trying to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Like, that just makes everything so much harder when you're already processing all this.
Yeah.
It doesn't help you in any way. Like, what would it, if you were to come out and experience this again, how would you ask people to respond to you, even if they didn't have a grid for, your side of the story? What would you hope people would respond to people that in their lives that are experiencing something that are coming out?
I think I would want the experience to not feel like I'm othered.
Yeah.
I think I felt like a monster at times.
Yep.
And like I was some perverted, dirty, selfish thing that needed to be washed and cleansed. So I think having someone say you're pure, you're good, your desires are true, and you deserve to experience this life exactly how you want would have been really impactful.
Yeah.
How would that have changed your relationship with the church or even God moving forward?
A lot.
Yeah.
I think because of the representation and because of how much I valued people's opinion at that time, and put such weight in people's opinion, I would have my view of God would not be as skewed. Because I think God is all those things that I just mentioned. And I think he wants that for literally everyone. I just don't think that God looks like the Christian God. You know, God can look like Buddha. God can look like Allah. God can look like and manifest in all different kinds of ways. And I think if we put limitations on one religion, that's only one way we can experience God. And I think he's far greater than that. Yeah. That's my mini soapbox.
No, and I think I would say I'm still a Christian, but I think I've had to like pull back and just, I think religion is the biggest piece of me having a hard time like still wanting to be a Christian, because as a structure it can just be so harmful, especially in the American culture. Religion has become like a political party, and it's become so toxic, and it's become something where you look for the rules before you look for love. I've just seen that so many times. I still identify as a Christian, but at the same time, like, it looks different than my Christianity used to look like. And I think there's been times where like I've been pulling apart the faith. I'm like, what do I actually believe? And I still feel connected to God, and it still feels like the God I knew as a child, that I still felt like I was connecting to God even through all of this. I just never felt like it was all of this judgment and all of these like this perfectionism and this like need to prove myself and be enough and just be right and good. I realized all that stripped away, and I'm like, is there still faith in the Christian God? And for me, I felt like there still was a connection to the Christian God and Jesus, and I still feel that. But I think now it's not like, because I hear your perspective and I'm like, I totally know where you're coming from. Like I think you still recognize spirituality, and it feels different to you now. And
so different.
I love the journey that you're on. Like, I really respect it, honestly. And like the openness to spirituality, because I feel like, and I have no feelings towards anyone that doesn't feel like they want any spirituality in their lives. I get it. After it abuses you. When it's your abuser for so long.
You're like, I don't know if and there's so much space for that. I think we've all probably been there in different seasons of our life for longer periods. But what I can say is the thing that I always fall back on, call it Holy Spirit, call it intuition, call it however you want to call it, is the kind of person that I want to be, the way that I want to love. That's the thing that guides me above all things. And that's the kind of person and the way that I want to interact with this world and make my mark, whether it's small and it's a teeny tiny ripple, or it's a massive explosive wave. You know, that's what I want to do.
Well, just as your friend and having a upfront seat at your life, I can attest you are such an intentional person with the way that you handle not only every aspect of your life, but specifically relationships. You tend to go inward to kind of see like, hey, how am I contributing to this dynamic, or what am I doing wrong here? And in that sense, you extend so much love and grace to people. Thank you. And I know you're making an impact in people's lives, despite it not being in the church. I've seen you have that impact in students' lives and my own life. And so now this podcast, whoever hears you.
No, I think meeting you and your partner, there's just a natural, you just seem so naturally loving and naturally you're connected, but you're also loving. I love couples where you go into a room and their energy just builds energy up, because a lot of times couples will like, just be themselves.
It's like,
but you two were such, like, you brought, I think it was Susie's birthday, you brought so much life and energy to the room. I'm like, these girls are really cool.
Thank you.
So I'm actually really excited you're our first guest, but both of you naturally carry love for people really well. And you've been through so much, and there's even stuff like I'm sure you haven't even shared. And like, we got to get your partner on here sometime too.
Oh my gosh, yes,
that would be fun.
But like,
tell our love story from our perspective.
But then like I was hanging out with a group of like all sorts of people from all different walks, but I feel like you are a great representation of someone who's kept like their love open and honest. You're not like closed up. You're not bitter. You're not angry. You've been kind of pooped on, for lack of a better word, and you've still like kept love for people that maybe pooped on you. So how would you say, what was the biggest tip you'd give to someone on how to stay soft and keep yourself in a place of love?
I don't know. I think when I think of like the perspective that I've had, the thing that drove me most was how the kind of impact that I wanted to make on the people around me. And I knew it was a positive one. And what does that mean? That means kindness. That means love. That means curiosity. That means safety. And what those things embody for me look like just showing up for someone. Yeah. And so those are the things that drove me. I don't know if that answers your questions. I kind of got lost in the sauce there for a second.
No, and my question was long, and it's not as good as Susie's, and that's fine. I do have one more though. I do have one more, which I feel like I should just kind of be a token question on this podcast. Is like, if you could say something to yourself at 16 years old, what would it be?
Buckle up. Oh God. Stay true. You know who you are. And don't let shame take over.
I needed to hear that today.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah, shame is a bitch. Excuse me. We
shame
can say that.
No, I think we're gonna cuss. I haven't like decided officially, but I think we should cuss. I like to cuss sometimes.
I think, especially as people who grew up in the church, shame is a favorite tool. And is used to keep people in line. And I think that is not good and can cause irreparable damage.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I think I did need to hear that. I think shame is something we always got to watch out for after so much of our lives were consumed by it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anything else you wanted to ask, Susie?
No, I think you covered all the good questions.
Did I cover?
You
were those good ones? I think good questions.
Yeah.
Anything you want to ask us? What's,
oh my gosh. Well, you guys have already shared your stories.
Yeah. I mean, I could make another one. I could find another story. This morning I had a great coffee.
Ooh, you did?
And now
was it Susie's?
Mine.
I also drank some of. I realized that I can't just have one cappuccino anymore. I have to have more than that. So I had the cappuccino, but I don't need 2 full drinks because 2 is too much. So I had the cappuccino, and then I had a little bit of our cameraman's, and then I had a little bit of Susie's, and that's fine because.
He just sips on people's
random
coffees.
If you think I'm so beautiful, you would just let me drink all your coffee and not.
That is true.
You're beautiful.
You can't just compliment me and not give me your coffee. I keep forgetting.
I forgot about that too. She hides it so well.
You don't give germaphobe.
I know, but I'm thinking it.
So by the end of this podcast, I'm gonna break the germaphobe.
Just cough in your genital. Okay, you want a fun story? What I would do to my little sister? She was a germaphobe growing up. I think I've told you this story, actually. I've told Susie this story, but you get to hear it. So
that's a good one.
This is a instigator older sister moment. What I would do is I would sneeze in her general direction, and she would freak out. She would literally stick her head out the window, like if we're in the car, and be like, because she didn't want to get my germs.
And did it fix her?
You'd have to ask her.
No,
I think it just makes her. I think it just makes her.
Yeah,
made it worse.
Susie, we're gonna make you better.
I'll just sneeze in your general direction. Whenever I have a cold, I'll invite you over.
No.
Yes, it'll be so fun.
Okay, that's when I get OCD when someone has a cold. I'm the guy that's just like,
stay away.
My posture will be like this. Like I'll literally do this, and then I feel like I'm being subtle, but they probably know that I'm scared of them.
They always know.
Yeah. Well, is this it?
Yeah.
You're gonna close us out today.
Okay. Do you want me to look at the camera?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us at I Tried to Be Straight. Is that the right? Actually, it's
.com.
Yeah. I tried to be straight.com. Thank you so much for joining us at itriedtobestraight.com. We'll see you, or they'll see you next time.
Wait, can you do not .com but podcast?
No, we don't have a website. There's no website yet. .gov. Actually, someone's gonna steal this website. We have to get it now.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna get the website before this podcast comes out.
Okay.
So, but still, don't do .com. That's weird.
No, just say podcast.
I mean, it was cute, but it was weird.
Okay, great.
And I told you, and it's not your fault.
Thank you so much for joining us at I Tried to Be Straight podcast. We'll see you, or they'll see you next time.
.com.
.com.